So my first question is just to tell me about yourself.
Yeah, well, I am one half of the King and Country.
Okay.
My brother Luke, my younger brother, is the other half of the duo, and we sort of joke that, I'm the king and he's the country. I don't know why, but that's a question we get asked a lot. Originally from Australia, and we moved over straight to Nashville, Tennessee from Brisbane, Australia when we were youngins, with 2 of 7 children, and our oldest sister is a musician as well, so we traveled with her all growing up, and it really kind of helped us sort out whether we loved or loathed music, so to speak. And that's when really the King and Country was formed, was through the experiences of traveling on the road with her. And we started writing music in our young 20s and kind of performing, and we haven't stopped.
Okay.
Here we are.
So where'd the name for King and Country come from?
Well, we came up with a lot of really awful band names, really bad ones. I'll save you the gory details, but ultimately we were in the studio working on this record, and I was the self-appointed band name person. I would try and come up with all different types of names, and I'd thrown out that day in the studio, I said, hey, what about All the King's Men, like the Humpty Dumpty nursery rhyme? And our producer swung around, he said, well, what about for King and Country, like the old English battle cry, as soldiers were going in to fight for something greater than themselves, to bleed for what they believed. Their chant was for King and Country, for King and Country. And I think at that moment we all kind of looked at each other and thought that if that name's available, and if we can commandeer it, that would be a perfect name for us. So it has a lot of, I think it has a lot of deep meaning. The international side of it, of course, Australians are ultimately from England, Britain, and then of course the fact that there's two, the duo, the King and the Country, and there's a lot of cool correlations with the name.
Okay, so how did you guys meet your band members? Like, I know that's probably a big deal, like to find the perfect band members. How did they fit into the picture?
Really after the fact. We met one guy who's been with us the longest. He goes by the name Mark Campbell. He's the youngest member of the band. And we just started playing out a little bit more. The record was finished, and I went to some friends in Nashville, Tennessee, and I said, hey, we would really like, if you have anyone that would fit what we're doing, refer them to us. And so our mutual friend came back and said, oh, I've got this young guy that you need to meet. His name's Mark. And so I said, all right, let's do it. So we set up a meeting at a coffee shop in Nashville called the Frothy Monkey. And we sat down. I said, we're in line waiting, and I offered to buy Mark's coffee. I said, hey, I'll buy your coffee. And usually, like, if I am at a coffee shop and someone says, I'll buy you a drink, I usually get like the most extensive, the $5 Starbucks drink that you never knew about. And he ordered this really modest, like, little tall $1.29 coffee. And so I said, man, that's really modest of you, Mark. So then he earned the name Mod after Modest, and we've been calling him that ever since. So you'll see him, he'll be playing guitar with us tonight. He's been with us for every performance since. And so in similar fashion, all the guys that have played with us have come from some kind of connection or, referral of deep character, love for God, and of course, incredible musicianship.
All right, so what's your favorite thing about touring and performing?
I think the moment where you see people respond. Music's a weird thing, because you play these songs, you wrote these songs, you write them in a room, then somehow they make their way to the radio, and then people hear them in their cars, and so there's a very loose connection between you and the audience, but somehow you are connected. And a lot of times that first really deep connection happens when you're sitting or standing, obviously, on stage with the audience in front of you. And so it's a really kind of defining moment when you hear them start singing along and they respond and they're moved by a song or something you've said. I don't know, I think that makes all the traveling and the hotels and setting up and tear down, everything else kind of makes it all worth it.
Okay, so what song do you feel like you've gotten the best response over, whether it's a single or just a song on your album?
Track 2 on the record is called The Proof of Your Love. It was our second single, and it's been Busted Heart, which was our first, was a great first step, but The Proof of Your Love has really been a defining song for us. I think people have we look at it as sort of almost a built-in mission statement. And people, we've just seen people, thousands of people make it their anthem, you know. I refer to those moments, you know, the most exciting moments in traveling. One of the most exciting moments of the show is when we start that song and you see people just visibly moved and respond to it.
Okay. Can you share with us your personal testimony of salvation?
Australia, about 5% of Australia claim to be believers in Jesus, which is obviously a very small margin.
Yeah.
But I was really fortunate to grow up in a family where not only my parents were Jesus followers, but also their parents and also their parents. And so the idea of religion and Jesus and Christianity has always been built into my life. But there did come that moment where I realized you can't, you know, in any facet of life, you can't live off anyone else's belief. You have to find your own conviction and your own belief and understanding of life. And so I think I was about 8 was the kind of crossroads that I came to. It was like, all right, we're in Nashville, Tennessee, and I sort of realized that this had been a lifestyle and something that my parents had brought into my life, but it was time, even as that kid, to say, I'm going to stand on this. I'm going to commit my life to this.
Okay, so Alicia here had a question for you.
Yeah.
You guys sell the Australian coin, and even though we know you've told, you know, the reason why before, like why you sell that, but we wanted to hear it straight from you, like why do you sell that coin?
I think part of it goes, sorry, were you going to say something, Alicia?
No, I was coming closer so I can hear.
Part of it, we came from a very functional family. My parents have been married for 37 years and love each other more today than they ever have, but we're also keenly aware through friends and relationships that that's not often the case. And I think because of how much we've seen our parents influence our lives and our relationships specifically, that has sort of been, in some ways, the springboard for what we call respect and honor, which the penny necklace is tied to. And then the penny necklace is really it's kind of a physical representation of the fact that girls, so often culture says for girls to talk or dress or act like they're worth nothing more than a penny, but it's our deep belief that girls are priceless and they deserve to be treated like such. And so even something we'll mention from stage tonight is calling out girls, reminding them of that, and also saying to men, guys, it's time for us to step up and stand out. And it starts and it ends with us. The demise of culture has been, the history has proven that the demise of culture starts with the breakdown of the family. And so that's something that we share, we stand behind in every performance we possibly can, is saying, women, know what you're worth, don't settle for second best, and men, step up, chivalry is not dead.
Okay. What do you hope listeners will take away from your music?
I hope that they see it as an honest representation of who we are, first of all, that this is not some formula, or, you know, we poured our heart into these songs, we wrote these songs, and so there are songs that are related to relationships, there are songs that are related to a friend who struggled with depression, songs about it being a fine life, and there are songs about God. So I think ultimately that they would take away authenticity, but then the heartbeat of this record particularly is centered around a song called Crave. The chorus of that song says, hope is what we crave and that will never change. And it's Luke's and my belief firmly that, you know, we are all on a search for where true hope is found. That we've found it not in religion per se, not in any denomination, but we've found it in authentic connection and relationship with Jesus Christ. And so if there was a real anchor of the record, it would be the hope that we found in him.
Okay, so I know your brother is married, correct?
Yeah.
Are you married?
I'm not.
No. Okay, so him being married and you not, like, how does that work out when you guys are touring? Like, does his wife come with you guys? Like, how does that work out?
Well, they just had their first kid a month ago today, actually. And so we've had a little bit more time off, but she actually traveled with us up until she was about 7 months pregnant, pretty consistently. And so that's a really cool dynamic. Our father also manages us, so there's this real sense of family and synergy on the road. We're kind of doing life together, and I think it holds us both in good stead, having, first of all, each other, but then also having father and wife and friends out on the road with us.
Okay, so this is just a question from my personal curiosity because I have a large connection with this fair. Have you gotten a chance to like look around the fair? Like, what do you think of it?
The extent of our look around is on this stage outside the tent here. There was a guy in an American flag playing Elvis covers, and I thought he was very convincing. But no, we came in, we did sound check, and then we went out and got some Thai food, and we've just gotten back. So I haven't really had a chance to kind of take it in. But from what I could see with our little look around and drive around, this is one of the cooler and more of kind of family-friendly fairs it seems like we've been to.
Okay, cool. All right, so I have two more questions.
Yeah.
What projects are you guys currently working on?
Well, that's kind of up in the air a little bit. We're just deciding really whether we're going to go back in the studio pretty soon and start working on our second record, or whether we're going to kind of wait a little bit more and travel and maybe tackle it towards the end of this year. We do know, though, we're working on a new single that'll come out middle of the year. We also just released another song called Middle of Your Heart off Crave, off our first record. And then the third thing, which this is very premature, but you got to start thinking about this ahead of time, is we're going to do a Christmas EP this year.
Cool.
So we did a little Christmas tour last year and worked up these King and Country renditions of a lot of Christmas classics and just had a blast. And so we're going to take 3 or 4 of those and record them and travel, do another Christmas tour this year in support of that.
Okay, so my last question is, what advice do you have for aspiring musicians?
One of the things I would say is move to a location where music is flourishing. Austin, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee. The best correlation I can give to that is if you want to be a football star and you're stuck in the backwoods of Alabama, you've got to either go to a college or move to a location where football is being played. You can aspire, you can train, you can become an incredible football player. But if you're not around a team, if you're not around people that are refining you and sharpening you and growing you, and you're not around the actual physical people that can offer you a record deal or a sports, contract in that case, then forget about it. So it would be move to a location, and then secondly, it would be really intentional and disciplined about your art. Playing, writing, singing, or all three, whatever it is, because so often we think of creativity as like this thing that just kind of happens and like someone sits down and writes a song. It's like anything else. It's a muscle. It needs to be exercised. It needs to be disciplined. When you mix discipline with creativity, that's when magic happens. And it's hard. There's a lot of times we'll sit down still and have days where it's like, well, felt like losers today. And then another day you'll write a song and you'll be like, gosh, why can't we do this every day? So yeah, I think those two things, location and be really, really disciplined about it.
All right, well,